Today I have another fun Chop It Up inspired project for you. We'll be cutting into our 6x6 paper pads. Let's see what we're going to make today. Hi, my name is Jenny and welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to chop up this Mintay 6x6 paper pad to create 5 beautiful and fun projects. I'm going to flip through my paper pad and jump right in. The first project, I'm going to make a gift tag, which is going to be super different. So the first thing I'm going to do is find a really busy pattern. I'm going to cut off 2 little strips that are 1/2 inch, and I'll set those aside. We're going to need those later on. And then I'm going to cut this paper down to 5 by 5 inches, and I'll have a little scrap left over. I'll need that later as well. I'm going to take this 5-inch squared piece over to my scoreboard, and I'm going to score across the whole sheet of paper at 1/2 inch. And then once that's done, I'll take it back to my trimmer and I'm going to cut it in half, making sure that my score marks are going opposite direction of the way I'm cutting. So the score marks are going across the page. I'm going to cut it in half at 2.5 inches. And then I'm going to take those pieces and cut them in half again at 1.25 inch. So you'll have 4 pieces that measure 1.25 by 5 inches with scores across the whole sheet. Now I'm going to start folding all of those score marks. So I'm just going to zigzag fold and go back and forth so that we end up creating like an accordion fold. So I'm going to do that to all 4 pieces and press them in nice and good. And then we've got 4 pieces that look like this. And now I want to attach the pieces together. So I need the scores on one of the sheets to go the other way. So I just kind of refolded it and you'll see I have at the end, I have one piece that goes down and then one piece that's sticking up. So I can apply some adhesive over this piece and attach it to the next piece to create a continuous accordion. Okay, super simple, but it takes a little bit of work. It's a little fiddly, but once it's all glued together, it'll come together nicely. So I'm going to attach those together. I'll do the same thing to the other 2 pieces. And again, the one piece needs to be facing up. So I'm going to take one of those pieces and fold them back the other way so that we have one little piece that folds down and one little piece that folds up so that we can attach those 2 pieces together like this. Okay, add some adhesive and glue everything together. Once that's adhered, we're going to do this again and attach those 2 pieces to each other. Now we've already pre-folded, so we should have one edge that's up and one edge that's down that we can just glue together. So same thing, attaching this piece to this piece to create one long accordion folded strip. All right, and then guess what? We're going to do this one more time. We're going to bring the edges of those pieces around in a circle to create a little flower. So I have a little piece of the scrap. I just cut that off of my scrap that's left over. And it doesn't matter how big it is, as long as it's smaller than the pinwheel itself. I add some double-sided adhesive because what's going to happen is once I get everything glued together, I need to secure it quickly. Otherwise, it's just going to pop open. So I'm going to take those ends and glue them together the same way as I had previously. And I'm just going to take my time here and be ready with your glue and your double-sided tape so that you can glue it together quickly. So once I have everything glued together, I'm going to gently work in those little folds to create my little pinwheel flower here. And then I'm going to pick it up and quickly place it down over top of my double-sided adhesive. Okay, so it's still not 100% secure yet. We have to add a little bit more. I grab a little bit of that liquid glue and I just put it in between the center of the flower and that hole there just to help glue it all together. And then I take my scrap and I punch out a little 3/4 inch circle, apply a little bit of adhesive to the top of that, and then put that right in the center of my pinwheel to hold it all together. So I'm working very quickly here. I have glue all over my hands, but in the end, it's a beautiful looking project. All right, so let's go back to those 2 little 1/2 inch strips that we created. I'm going to cut them into a little flag banner tail. What do you call this? Fishtail banner tails, ribbon tails? I'm not sure. I'll cut a little triangle into the bottom of them, then glue them all together. and then a little bit more glue and attach it to my little pinwheel or rosette or flower. I'm not sure what I've called it throughout this video, probably many different things. But this is what we have. And look at this, it's so cute. I'm going to attach it to a nice pre-made tag that I keep in my drawer. And I think this is just such a lovely little addition to a present. It's almost like a little award ribbon. I love the way it turned out. So I've got some sheer ribbon here. I only had black sheer ribbon. I wish I had some white. It would have looked nicer. So I'm just going to take a piece of ribbon and feed it through. I'm not going to tie this. I'm going to take some baker's twine and wrap it around the top to create the little knot so that the ribbon tails are kind of sticking up. And I'll tie a little knot and a bow into the little baker's twine, trim off the edges, and then I'm going to take the two tails of the black ribbon, I'm going to line them up together, fold it in half, and then angle my scissors downward. And this is going to create the same little fishtail banner that we created in the rosette or pinwheel or award ribbon, whatever it is at this point. But there we go. There's our first project. All right, let's move into the second one. All right, for this project, I'm going to take one piece of paper. This is 6x6 pattern paper, of course. I'm going to cut it in half at 3 inches. And then I'm going to take one of those pieces and I'm going to cut it down to 4 inches. I'll have a piece that measures 4 inches by 3 inches. And I'll score 1/2 inch on 3 sides, leaving the top part of this cardstock with no score line. So I'm going to come in and crease the folds just so that you can see what we're doing here. I'm going to make an angle cut right up to where those 2 score lines meet on both corners, just like this. And then I'll angle cut the top just a little bit so that when I fold these pieces over, nothing sticks out. So basically, this is going to be a little pocket to go on the back of the first piece of cardstock that we cut. So I'm going to grab a little circle punch and punch out a little finger notch here. I'm going to apply some adhesive on those 1/2 inch strips there and glue this down to my cardstock. So I just apply adhesive on all 3 sides here and adhere this down to the bottom. And this is the back of my pattern paper. I'll use my bone folder to press everything in. And then this is going to be a little pocket that we can slip a gift card into. A gift card fits perfectly. And then I'm going to angle cut the top here to create a little tag. And I'll just cut off one corner and then use that other corner as a guide on where to cut off on the other side so that we have even symmetrical tag corners. And then I'm going to punch a hole through the top of this tag. And then I decided I wanted to put some hole reinforcers. And I like to make these with my scraps. So I take a scrap piece of paper and a 3/4 inch circle punch, and I punch out 2 circles. And then I'm going to apply glue just around the edges of this and attach them to the both sides of the tags. So I apply a little bit of glue there and pop this on the center of that little hole in the front. I'm going to repunch another hole through, so you don't necessarily need to punch the hole first, but I just wanted to have a guide where to place these. So I'm just going to put this one over top and I'm going to check to make sure that they kind of meet up and they're in the exact same spot. So when I punch another hole through, it's going to be in the center of both circles, if that makes sense. So I'm going to punch my hole again. And then there we go. We have these little hole reinforcers on both sides of our tag. And I made that from scrap. So here we go. I added a little bit of baker's twine into the top of this tag just for a decorative element. And I felt like the top was a little bit floppy. So I took a scrap of paper and just glued that to the back. It was just a piece that was left over just to give it a little bit of strength and it looks pretty too. I stamp a little to and from on the back of this tag and this one is done. There we go. Project number 2 complete. Here is a close-up look at that project. Now let's move on to project number 3. So for this project, I'm going to cut a piece that measures 4 by 6 inches, and I'm going to take it to my scoreboard. I'm first going to score across the 6-inch side at 1/2 inch, 3 inches, and 2 3/4 inches. Make one turn to the left and score at 3.5 inches. Next, I'm going to fold all of the corners so that you can see what we're working with here. And I'm using my bone folder to get nice sharp creases. With my pattern that I want on the outside, I want to keep this 1/2 inch strip on the left-hand side. I'm just going to cut that little tiny corner away. And I'm going to follow along the score mark all the way to the second score line. Okay, so I'm going to cut this whole piece away. And then I'm going to angle cut that little bottom piece so that when this part folds up, there's no resistance. And I'll do the same thing. I'll angle cut this corner on both sides, angle cut the top here, and there we go. So what's going to happen is this little flap on the left-hand side is going to be where we attach this inside of a card or journal or whatever. And these little bottom pieces will get folded up and adhered together. I'll apply glue on the one side and the bottom, fold it over and press it all in. And then we have this little flappy looking thing. And I'll punch a finger notch in the top of this. And this is perfect for a gift card as well. You can put a tag in here and put this inside of a journal, or you can put a gift card in it and put it inside of a card and just glue that little strip down. And then you can write a personal message underneath it, like a little secret sort of door. So many different ways to use this little thing. So just a little piece of paper that measures 4 by 6 inches turns into this cute little pocket. Okay, let's move into project number 4. I kind of shared this sort of idea already on the back of the tag that I made in project number 2, but I just wanted to elaborate on this a little bit. So taking my piece of pattern paper, putting it in my trimmer and cutting it at 3.5 inches, and then cutting it again across the 6-inch side at 3 inches. So this is going to make 2 little pockets out of this little piece of paper, and then a bigger pocket out of the larger scrap. So we're going to score a 1/2 inch on one side. So since this is 3.5 inches, I'll score at 1/2 inch and 3 inches. I'll rotate it and score at 2.5 inches. So the idea behind this is you can take any size piece of paper and score on 3 sides at 1/2 inch and make these cuts like I just did in this pocket, cutting away those corners, angling the little flaps on the side, and then folding these pieces in. And then those little 1/2 inch strips are what get adhered to whatever you want inside of a journal or notebook or card or whatever. And you just glue that down, and the top part is open and it creates our little pocket. You could put this on the inside of a card, you could put it on the front of a card. It will fit a gift card perfectly. This one that we made specifically. I'm going to punch a finger notch. I feel like that really identifies what it is. It makes it seem like it's supposed to have something in it. The purpose of it is a pocket once it has a little finger notch in it. It does in my mind, anyways. Okay, so as I mentioned, it's a 1/2 inch. So this piece of paper is 6 inches by, I don't know, 2.5. And I'm scoring at 1/2 inch on either end, and then another 1/2 inch from the bottom. And I'm going to make these little angle cuts, same as I had done. Cut away the corners there with a slight angle and then little angle from the top, fold up the bottom and the sides. This would even work for, a 6 by 10 piece of paper. Any size of paper that you have, this will work. Obviously, if you want your pocket to be a little bit more sturdy for a larger pocket, I would suggest doing a 1-inch score on either side and just leaving the top open, but whatever works for you. But this is a great sort of staple to make any size pocket that you want. All right, let's move into our 5th and final project. I'm going to take 2 pieces of paper that are the same pattern. I'm just going to dig through this book and find what I'm looking for. You don't have to make it the same, but I just thought it would be more cohesive. So first things first, I'm going to make a card out of the first piece. I'm going to score it in half at 3 inches, and then I'm going to cut it the opposite way of what I scored at 3 inches. So I'm going to end up with 2 3 by 3 inch little note cards. These are just the cutest little pattern with this little door on it. I thought it was so cute. So there we go. We've got 2 3 by 3 inch cards. All right, now I'm going to make an envelope to fit these cards. So first thing I want to do is cut this paper down. I'm going to take it to my trimmer here and I'm going to cut it down to 4 inches. Okay, save that strip off to the side. We'll come back to that in a minute. I'll take this piece to my scoreboard and I'm going to score at 3/8 of an inch, and then I'll score at 3 5/8 of an inch. It's just giving me a little bit on either side, and then I'll score at 3 1/4 inches. Okay, so this kind of looks weird, but it'll come together in a second. So we're going to crease the folds here so that you can see what we're working with. And we'll make a few cuts into this paper. And I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut away from the bottom. What's on the top was scored at 3/4 and what's on the bottom is whatever's left. So it's a little bit smaller. So I'm going to cut away that one side right up to that score mark and then angle cut, make a little angle cut at the top. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side, just following along that score mark till I reach the intersecting score, make a little angle, and there we go. I'll press these in with my bone folder and I'm going to apply adhesive on those little flaps to close this up. But first, I need an envelope flap. So I'm going to take my scrap and I'm going to cut it down to 3¼ inches. I'm just being mindful of the pattern because you're going to see this part on the inside of the envelope. So I've cut it down to 3¼ inches and I'll score this at 1/2 inch. Okay. So that little 1/2 inch strip is where I'm going to apply adhesive and glue this down to the inside of my envelope to create my flap. So I'm just going to angle cut on the side just a little bit. This is, a really important step I find to help things glue and come together nicely just by creating a slight angle in the edges. And I'll apply my adhesive and then get this set right on the top of my envelope. Okay, so I'm just going to line it up here, make sure that it meets right up with the top of the pattern paper, close up my envelope flap, and make sure it's all square. And there we go. I'll apply my adhesive down the sides here, making sure I don't go right to the top because it does stick out a little bit, like you'll see here. I'll press in that adhesive, and this little mini envelope is complete. If you didn't get your cuts very straight, now's the time where you can come in and just trim off any overhang. I'm also going to round the corners on the flaps of the envelope here. I feel like that just gives it a nice finishing touch. So I'll round those corners, and then my little 3x3 inch card will fit perfectly inside of this envelope. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is create a little closure for this envelope. So I have my circle punch here that I've used all along and a scrap piece of paper. I'm going to punch out this little birdhouse out of this scrap, and then I'm going to apply adhesive just on half of it. Not the whole thing, just the bottom half of this little circle. I'll use my liquid glue, making sure that I don't go over half. And then I'm going to line this up onto the center of my envelope and press that down. And I only want the glue to adhere to the envelope itself and not the flap. The flap is going to be the spot where we can just tuck into this little circle to close up our little envelope. Okay, here's a close-up look at that little carton envelope. And then that's going to be it for today's video. We have 5 ways to get you inspired into chopping up some of your pattern paper. If you enjoy these project series, please let me know. Leave me a comment in the description down below. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd love to have you along my paper crafting journey. Coming up on screen are 2 sets of playlists for my Chop It Up series. I hope that you'll check those out and get inspired to chopping up your pattern paper. Thanks so much for joining me. Have yourself a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!